What's happening, everybody? I'm Todd Tanner. This is Wrestling News Now. He was one of professional wrestling's or sports entertainment's hottest commodities. The Hot Rod, Roddy Piper. We're going to be talking about him in a few moments. Y'all know how I do on this program. We make it all happen. You ask the questions and I provide the answers. If you happen to be passing by and you like what you're looking at, hit that like button and also hit the subscribe button. And if you're in a group, text it to everybody in the group and tell them to turn into the hottest wrestling program on YouTube. And with your help, we are going to get there. For all of those who have subscribed to this YouTube page, you know what? I'm grateful. I'm thankful. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Now let's get down to it on tonight. I'm profiling the one and only Roddy Piper. The Hot Rod. That was his stage name. But the real name is Roderick George Toombs. Better known as Roddy Piper, was a Canadian professional wrestler. Who would have thunk it? Amateur wrestler and actor in professional wrestling, Piper was best known to international audiences for his work with the World Wrestling Federation and World Championship Wrestling between 1984 and the year 2000. And we're going to just get down to the Hot Rod story on tonight. Who was he? What made him tick? What made him work? And how? And you know what? I kind of goofed, y'all. Let me get back to the Hot Rod. Got to get my info back up here. Because sometimes, I hit the wrong buttons, but I keep it going. Once I start talking, there's no turning back. Roderick George Toombs was born on the 17th of April, 1954, and unfortunately he passed away on the 31st of July, 2015. Better known as Roddy Piper. He was a Canadian professional wrestler, amateur wrestler, and actor. Yeah, Piper, he appeared in some pretty good movies. Not a lot of wrestlers can make the transition from wrestling to acting. And he did it, and he did it well. Hulk Hogan did it. Of course, we know the number one box office attraction is The Rock. In professional wrestling, Piper was best known to international audiences for his work with the World Wrestling Federation, WWE, now WWF, now WWE, and World Championship Wrestling, or WCW, between 1984 and 2000. Although he was a Canadian, because of his Scottish heritage, he was billed as coming from Glasgow and was known for his signature kilt and bagpipe entrance music. Piper earned the nicknames Rowdy and Hot Rod by displaying his trademark Scottish short temper, spontaneity, and quick wit. According to the Daily Telegraph, he is considered by many to be the greatest heel or villain or wrestler ever. One of wrestling's most recognizable stars, Piper headlined multiple PPV or pay-per-view events, including the WWF and WWC's respective premier annual events, WrestleMania and Starrcade. He accumulated 34 championships and hosted the popular WWF WWE interview segment Piper's Pit, which facilitated numerous kayfabe feuds. In 2005, Piper was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame by the one and only, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, who dubbed him the most gifted entertainer in the history of professional wrestling. Outside of wrestling, Piper acted in dozens of films and TV shows, most notably taking the lead role of John Nader in the 1988 cult classic, They Live, and a recurring role as a deranged professional wrestler called the Maniac on the FX comedy series It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He is also widely known for his role in Hell Comes to Frogtown as the character Sam Hill. So Piper is widely regarded as one of the most influential professional wrestlers in history. So how did it all start for the Hot Rod? Roderick George Toombs was born in Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm botching this up. You know, and I believe it or not, I actually rehearsed this before I came on, so I'm not stopping. I'm going to read it again. Roderick George Toombs was born in Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan on April 17, 1954, the son of Elaine and Stanley Bard Toombs. He was raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and attended Windsor Park Collegiate. His father was an officer with the CN Rail Police or Canadian National Railway, and they lived in Napas, Manitoba. After being expelled from junior high for having a switchblade in school, wow, it started early for him, and falling out with his father, Toombs left home and stayed in youth hostels. He picked up odd jobs at local gyms, running errands for several professional wrestlers. As a young man, he became proficient in playing the bagpipes, though he repeatedly stated that he was unsure exactly where he picked them up. His childhood and lifelong best friend was ex-NFL player Cam Connor. And then Piper started training at an early age between 1969 and 1975. Piper was an amateur wrestler before he started to become a professional wrestler. He claimed to have won the Golden Gloves Boxing Championship. Through their list of champions, though their list of champions don't include any of his names, he was awarded a black belt in judo from Jean Lebel. He started wrestling under the care of promoter Al Tomko in Canada. His first match involving midget wrestlers in front of lumberjack audience in Churchill, Manitoba. He soon began earning money wrestling while going to school. His first match in a famous organization was Larry Henning in the American Wrestling Association, or the AWA. Friends of his played the bagpipes during his entrance while he was handing out dandelions. Meanwhile, the ring announcer had to announce something, but all he knew was that Piper's name was Roddy. Subsequently, after seeing the pipe band, he announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, here comes Rowdy the Piper." This gave birth to the name Rowdy Piper. From 1973 to 1975, Piper was a jobber in the American Wrestling Association. Those are people who get paid to lose. So a lot of them actually have done that. They got paid to actually lose to make the big stars look good. So he was a jobber in the American Wrestling Association, the NWA Central States Territory surrounding Kansas City, and Eastern Sports Association in the Maritimes. He also worked in Texas for Paul Boschek's NWA Houston Wrestling Promotion, and in Dallas for Fritz Von Erich's Big Time Wrestling. By late 1975 and early 1976, Piper was a top villain for Mike and Jean LaBelle's NWA Hollywood Wrestling in 1977 and 1978. He also started to work for Roy Schrine's NWA San Francisco Wrestling, in addition to remaining with the Los Angeles office, where Piper developed his rowdy character. During this time, he made continuous insults directed at the area's Mexican community. He later promised to repent by playing the Mexican national anthem on his bagpipes, only to anger the fans further by playing La Cucaracha instead, which in turn caused a riot. Piper also managed a stable of wrestlers in California. In the Los Angeles area, Piper feuded with Chavo Guerrero Sr. and his father, Gory Guerrero. Piper and Chavo Guerrero faced each other in several matches for the Jules Strongbow Memorial Scientific Trophy. Piper also defeated Chavo for the Americas Heavyweight title. During the feud, Piper lost a hair match and had his head shaved. Piper appeared in several loser leave town matches and was forced to leave the territory. He also appeared in the territory as the Masked Canadian. In his first televised match as the Masked Canadian, Piper teamed with Chavo in the America's Tag Team Championship. Piper and Guerrero lost the match and faced each other 2 days later, with Piper defeating Guerrero for the America's Heavyweight Championship. Piper wrestled as the Masked Canadian for several months until he was unmasked by Hector Guerrero. By late 1978, early 1979, Piper left the California promotions for even more fame in Don Owens' Portland-based Pacific Northwest Territory. He teamed with Killer Tom Brooks and Rick Martel to win the NWA Pacific Northwest Tag Team Championship. Piper also won the NWA Pacific Northwest Heavyweight Championship with victories over both Lord Jonathan Boyd and Playboy Buddy Rose. If you know anything about Playboy Buddy Rose, there was nothing about him that resembled being a Playboy. In the early 1980s, Piper ventured into the Mid-Atlantic territory where he beat Jack Briscoe for the Mid-Atlantic title. He also defeated Ric Flair for the U.S. belt, which turned into a feud. From 1981 to 1982, Piper served as a commentator on Georgia Championship Wrestling and feuded with the likes of Bob Armstrong, Dick Slater, and Tommy Rich. During the summer of 1982, Piper became a fan favorite after knocking out Don Morocco and Ole Anderson to save broadcaster Gordon Soley from Morocco, who had grown angry at Soley, questioning his tactics. In Wrestling to Wrestling, Gerald W. Morton and George M. O'Brien described the transformation. The drama finally played itself out on television when one of Piper's hired assassins, Don Morocco, suddenly attacked the commentator, Gordon Soley. Seeing Soley hurt, Piper unleashed his Scottish fury on Morocco. In the week that followed, like Achilles avenging Patroclus, he slaughtered villain after villain. In the arenas, fans chanted his name throughout his matches. In 1982, Piper was fired because of showing up late for a match. He went to Puerto Rico for a month and was booked by Jim Barnett shortly thereafter. Piper returned to the Georgia area in the summer of 1983 to aid Tommy Rich during his rivalry with Buzz Sawyer. Eventually, Piper moved back to Jim Crockett Promotions. As a fan favorite, Piper feuded with Sergeant Slaughter, Ric Flair, and Greg Valentine. Piper's feud with Valentine culminated in a dog collar match at the first Starrcade. Valentine broke Piper's left eardrum during the match with the collar's chain, causing Piper permanently lost 50 to 75% of his hearing. This became known as the Year of the Ear. Before entering the World Wrestling Federation, or the WWF full-time in 1984, Piper wrestled 5 matches with the WWF under Vince McMahon Sr. in 1979 at Madison Square Garden. His first match in WWF, he defeated jobber Frank Williams on January 22nd. Before one match, Freddie Blassie stuffed Piper's bagpipes with toilet paper so they would not play in front of the Garden crowd. This is to be continued. The Hot Rod, Rowdy Roddy Piper. And you heard it first right here on Wrestling News Now with Todd Tanner. So thanks for watching. Don't forget, hit the like button and hit subscribe. Till next time.